coming for our third and final evening of Inquirere this semester. Tonight we have three wonderful presentations by students. As you can see, Alicia will be first, followed by Nolan, and then Hannah. Each student will take about a half an hour, and there'll be time for questions at the end, and then we'll switch over to the next presentation and so on. At the very end, if you would kindly stay for just a few minutes and put some of the tables and chairs back where they normally are, that would be really wonderful. In part because several of us are running away quickly to go to a Passover Seder dinner, starting around 8-ish in the ballroom, so everybody's welcome to that after the speeches if you want. Each student will be introduced by their project advisor, and our first project advisor, all of our Alpha Chi members want to come up. Everybody in Alpha Chi, just like most of the students who aren't freshmen. Come on. Last Wednesday at the Seal Award, Elaine Bossard at the Psychology Department won the Alpha Chi Professor of the Year Award, and Professor Julian Friday always makes a wonderful wooden box, handmade box, with the person's name. So Professor of the Year, Dr. Elaine Bossard, the year presented by Waldorf University, Alpha Chi. But we were waiting for the varnish to dry, so I said, oh, we have this presentation here, so here you go.
Since I have a second little opportunity here, I'll say one thing before I introduce Alicia here is that I was so overwhelmed by the comedian coming at me for psychology at Seal Awards. I forgot to just say thank you to all of the students, because I was caught me a little off guard, that guy did. So
you gave it back to him.
Yes, I did. Wouldn't be me if I didn't. So, but I have a much more important role today, which is to introduce my student Alicia Schaefer to y'all. She is obviously not on campus with us because she actually finished her degree a little early in the fall of this last year. So she spent 3.5 years at Waldorf, being a phenomenal student in the psychology program. She also was a great member of the volleyball team during her time here. She has always been a very motivated and dedicated student, always full of excitement, enthusiasm for anything people want to talk about. She's here, she's ready to learn, she's ready to have some fun. She spent a couple of summers doing internships and getting research experience. So one summer, you'll have to correct me exactly what you did, but you worked in a hospital setting, kind of learning some ropes there, working with clients. Last summer, she qualified and got invited down to the University of Iowa to do a research project in a lab, working in more of a neuroscience kind of aspect. And then when she graduated this fall and finished her degree, she went back to Iowa City to continue working in that lab full time while she was applying to graduate school. And I really hope that you don't mind me sharing this, but she recently was accepted into graduate school at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, so she will be starting in the fall.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction.
Do you want me to say anything else about your project in terms of this, or do you want to just head right in?
If you have anything, otherwise.
Oh, this was a completely on her own, wanted to get more experience project that we worked on last fall. So again, kind of thinking about what an involved and amazing student, go-getter that Alicia is, this is what she wanted to study. So I will let you take it from here.
Can you turn the speakers up?
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, thank you all for coming and listening to this presentation today. We're talking about some research with Professor Elaine Bossard this past semester. It's called A Comparison of Sport and Body Image in Student Athletes. So, to give kind of a background of the literature, body image in athletes is a really heavily researched topic, but unfortunately, there are many contradicting findings across the literature. Some literature suggests that athletes have an increased risk of body image dissatisfaction when compared to the average population, but other research suggests that athletes report lower body image concerns when compared to the average population. So this contradiction kind of suggests that there's possibly is something else that could be driving this body image dichotomy in athletes. So what we did was we looked at contextual body image, which is defined by Stewart and his colleagues in a paper that they wrote in 2021, referencing that it refers to the dual nature of athlete body image, which consists of body image in their sport and then body image in their everyday life. So with this contextual body image idea in mind, we came up with a couple hypotheses. We predicted that male athletes would have more positive feelings towards their body image in society, but then a more negative feeling towards their body within their sport. And then on the other hand, we predicted that female athletes would have a negative feeling towards their body in society, positive feelings towards their body image in context with their sport. After looking at the more literature,
Scroll down. Your slides.
can you see?
Oh, you are scrolling?
Yeah.
Click on the slide, the next one. I think you're about 2-3 in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Click on the next one, and you're in on the side panel. See if that should forward it up there.
I don't. I mean, it's showing my screen. Is it just one ahead of?
Okay.
Does she have Ring Central open on a screen? That's how she'll be able to.
Oh, wait, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
Oh.
we're gonna make something work
It's,
here.
yeah.
Sorry.
If she knows how, see how in sync you are.
I don't know. It's a good question.
So what slide do you?
I'm gonna take over this. You keep talking. I'm gonna get you on the right slide here. I'm gonna make it work
Okay.
one way or another.
You just want me to keep talking?
Yeah.
Okay. And then our final hypothesis, after looking at more literature, involved looking at aesthetic sport, which defined by the literature includes gymnastics, cheerleading, diving, sports that are more judged on the actual image of an athlete. You know, cheerleaders have to look a certain way to jump, when they do stunts, when they're cheering. So for the purpose of this experiment, the aesthetic sport is cheerleading. So we hypothesized that athletes involved in this more aesthetic sport would feel more positive about their body image in the context of society, but then more negative towards their body image in the context of their sport. So some of the methods we used, we constructed this experimental study over the course of the previous fall semester at Waldorf University with the permission of the Institutional Review Board on campus. This study used a quantitative approach in survey data collection to analyze contextual body image in athletes on campus. And participants were volunteers, and they completed questionnaires electronically, either on a laptop or mobile device. And informed consent was issued prior to answering any survey questions, just to ensure that they were comfortable sharing their feelings about their bodies. They were also notified that at any point within the survey, if they felt like they didn't want to answer questions, they were more than welcome to skip over that. All inquiries remained anonymous to the researchers, and we ended up having 49 athletes complete the survey that was later used in our statistical analyses. 24 of these were males, and 25 of these athletes were females. So some of the questionnaires that we used, first we started with a multidimensional body self-relationship questionnaire, also known as MBSRQ. I'll reference it as MBSRQ from here on out. But this was to form a baseline of each athlete's perception of their body across several different categories. And then these next two surveys, the body image questionnaire, also known as the PIC, and then the body image stress scale, also known as the BIS. Those two questionnaires were used for contextual assays. So we used both of those questionnaires twice within this one survey, once in the sport context and then once in the society context. The order orientation measures the extent of investment towards their appearance. So higher scores indicate that that individual places more importance on how they look, and therefore they spend more time trying to look good. Lower scores don't especially find looks as important, so they don't really spend a lot of time trying to look good. And then fitness evaluation measures feelings of being physically fit or unfit, so higher scores view themselves as in shape or fit, lower scores view themselves as out of shape. The fitness orientation is measuring the extent of investment that they spend trying to be physically fit or doing physical activity. So higher scores, you'll see them making more of an effort to either enhance or maintain their physical fitness. And then lower scores, you'll see them not valuing their physical fitness as much and not incorporating exercise into their lifestyle. Health evaluation measures the feelings of physical health or their freedom from physical illness. So an increase in these scores would mean that that person feels like they're in good health. Lower scores, they feel unhealthy or vulnerable to some illnesses. Health orientation then measures the extent of investment that they, the time that they use to stay physically healthy or have a healthy lifestyle. So higher scores mean that they're health conscious. Lower scores mean that they might be more apathetic about health. Oops, sorry. Illness orientation, not super important for this study, but because I did include it in some of my graphs, I'll just explain it to you all. It measures the extent of reactivity for becoming ill. So higher scores mean that they're more alert about their symptoms and to seek medical attention. Lower scores mean that they don't really find any symptoms. They're not out looking for symptoms in their health. The body area satisfaction is similar to the appearance evaluation, but it incorporates some discrete appearance aspects into it. So higher scores mean that they have a general sense of content with most of their areas of body, whereas lower scores, they're just unhappy with a lot of several areas of their body within that assay. The overweight preoccupation just assesses construct reflecting fat anxiety, weight vigilance, dieting, and then eating restraint. So higher scores indicate higher levels of this, lower scores indicate lower levels of this. And then the self-classified weight just reflects how someone perceives their own weight. So again, higher scores will classify them feeling very overweight, lower scores feeling very underweight. For the thick and the FIS, the thick has two aspects to it. The thick measures the extent to which an individual believes that their physical characteristics match up or are in line with their physical ideals. And then, again, on top of that, the importance that's associated with either having or being able to attain that ideal. So higher scores of this reflect a greater self-ideal disparity with strongly held physical ideals, whereas a lower score would reflect more congruence between that self-identity paradigm. Then this is a measurement of how that individual feels right now in this moment. This was given after the thick to see if individuals felt any different about their body after comparing it to a sport versus society. And lower scores reflect negative body image states, higher scores reflect positive states. So now moving on to some of the data. First, I'm going to talk about female athletes versus the female average, and then go on to do the males. Female athletes had a lot of significant differences in their responses to these questionnaires. As one might expect, there's a significant increase in the fitness evaluation and fitness orientation. Athletes are doing a lot more exercise, and they are working harder to either enhance or maintain their skills. So that's pretty expected. However, the health evaluation and health orientation is significantly decreased from the female norms. So athletes maybe aren't feeling as healthy as the average female, and maybe they're not taking as much action to stay as healthy as the average female, which I thought was interesting. The body area satisfaction was increased, so the females felt a lot better about the way that they looked compared to the average. And then self-classified weight, female athletes felt significant, like they weighed a lot less than the average individual, which is also something that you might expect. For the thick sport and thick society, these both just indicate that in both areas, athletes felt significantly better, like they have more congruence between that ideal self and their current self, whether that be in sports or society in general. Obviously, the averages were not based off of context, so the averages are just kind of what the average big score was, so it's a little bit comes to there. For male athletes, again, we have that significant increase in fitness evaluation and fitness orientation, which we would expect, and then again, that decrease in health orientation in comparison to the average males. Interestingly enough, too, the BIS sport had a significant decline. So this suggested to me that in comparison to, an average BIS score, male athletes felt significantly worse about their bodies after comparing it to their sport ideal. After this, I ran a one-way ANOVA across all of the teams that we had, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to do this for the BIC and the BIS because there were some hiccups in the surveys. Participants didn't end up finishing both sets of the two questionnaires, probably because they thought it was just a repeat and an accident. So I wasn't able to do an analysis on that. However, I will guide your attention to that appearance orientation and the fitness orientation. This information suggests that there is something pulling this significant difference. So for fitness orientation, I wasn't able to pinpoint what exact sport or category or group was really pulling this significant difference, but for appearance orientation, I was. So again, just another refresher on appearance orientation. This means that athletes or individuals are taking more time to look good. And what I found across the teams was that female cheerleaders were significantly higher across several different sports in this assay. So they felt that they needed to look good, they prioritized looking good, which with being an aesthetic sport is kind of interesting because this might be reflecting into a neutral context. They just might always think about how they look in all settings, whether it be sport or society. So I thought that was really interesting. Another reason why I find it interesting is because the female cheerleaders did not have any significant differences between the female averages. However, there were significant differences across several sports teams in this specific category. Now, going on to compare mixed sport and mixed society, there were no significant findings when comparing this big sport and big society. However, with the exception of female track and field athletes, male football, and potentially male hockey athletes, there is a trend that big sport, a lot of athletes feel that they are more congruent with that ideal sport and ideal current self when in the sports context compared to society. So they feel like they fit that ideal a little bit better. And then when comparing this sport and this society, nothing really was significant. I didn't even see any real trends with this. Then when looking at all of the athletes, there was a very significant decrease in the big sport in comparison to big society. So this again suggests what I said earlier, that athletes feel like they align with their ideal sport body type with their current body characteristics in comparison to society. And then when comparing male and females to this sport society paradigm, I didn't really see anything super significant with the big assay. Males had maybe a slight decrease in sports, but nothing really significant. And then with the BIS, like stated earlier in that other graph, one of the first graphs that I showed you all, the males had felt significantly worse about themselves after comparing their ideal sport self with their current self. So that was also interesting. Now looking at this aesthetic sports, there wasn't anything significant. However, these findings are trending away from what we hypothesized. So again, just to refresh, we hypothesized that female athletes would feel more in line with their societal ideal body type versus their sport. But in this graph here, shows that female cheerleaders seem to align better with their sport ideal versus society ideal. And then again with the BIS, it's not significant, but it definitely is trending that females felt not significant. They felt worse about their body after comparing it to society ideal. So then just to kind of wrap up everything that I just said, I know it was a lot of information. So we found that male athletes felt similarly about their bodies in both sport and society contexts. This did not align with our hypothesis, but it is an interesting find. There might be some difference in how males view societal standards versus females. But then again, for female athletes, we did find that they felt slightly better about their bodies in their sports context versus the societal context. It was not significant, but it definitely was trending. And again, this might add to this female societal expectation that we have. And then overall, athletes just felt better about their bodies in context with sports versus society. And then to go back with the athletes in the aesthetic sports, they felt slightly better about their body when comparing themselves to their sport versus society. Again, it was not significant, but that appearance orientation was significantly higher across several different sports teams, which again suggests that there is something with this aesthetic sport and how these athletes view their appearance in some way. Some of the limitations and future directions that I just want to go over. The teams were not equally represented. I know I did not clarify this in the beginning, but the teams were not represented equally. Also, participants did not fully complete questionnaires. This was what we wanted. We wanted people to not answer questions if they felt uncomfortable, but I do think that because of the repetition of those two questionnaires, it might have confused some of the participants, and it wasn't necessarily, oh, I'm not comfortable answering these questions anymore. It was, oh, I already answered this. I don't think I want to answer them again because it doesn't make sense. And then another thing, we did not collect our own non-athlete averages. So again, when I kind of talked on that first slide about the BIC scores not being in context with the sport, it wasn't maybe the best for us to not have our own non-athlete averages because there could obviously be outdated and a few other like age differences, things like that. But for future directions, we think it would be interesting to look at the weight training that's involved within each sport to kind of better understand this type of training each athlete goes through and how that might impact body image going forward. I know that there's a huge difference between the way that cross-country athletes train versus track athletes. I mean, if they're both running sports, obviously track has a couple other activities involved in it, but cross-country is definitely a long-distance sport, and athletes appear different. They have a leaner build, whereas track athletes might need a little bit more muscle mass to get those sprints going or to do the hurdles and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that would be interesting to look into. And now I'm going to open up to any questions if any of you all have.
Oh, hang on one second. Because I have to update myself. There we go. Now I can really hear. Yep.
So Alicia, I'm curious if you had any men in your aesthetic sports. So I'm thinking male cheerleaders particularly. And did their responses differ from female cheerleaders, or isn't that something you got any data on?
Yeah, we only had 2 cheerleaders actually complete the questionnaire, and they were both females. So a lot of this is not conclusive data. Unfortunately, we can't really make any comparisons between male and female either, unfortunately. But I definitely think that something to look into. Another thing I think would be interesting is the wrestling population. I only had 1 male wrestler looked at that completed my survey, but that was definitely something I wanted to incorporate in this study, and unfortunately didn't get enough participants for it. But there is just a whole nother dynamic to wrestling with food relationships and just weight loss in general. So I think that that would also be another thing to look yeah, unfortunately, we do not have any male cheerleaders.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say I think you did a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Very interesting. You got off pretty easy. Alicia did a great job. All right. And thank you for putting up with me.
Oh, no problem. I'm sorry if the slides were kind of
No, I just pulled up mine and I was following you as you were talking and it worked out good. I wish we would have started that from the beginning. Let's be fair. All right. Well, then, I think are we ready to switch
Yes.
gears?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you. Is there a way that I can watch the presentations or?
There is no
Live stream link?
live stream link.
I will email it to you. Watch your email. I'll send it to you. I should have that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Well, that was a wonderful presentation. Now we'll set up for our next one by Nolan.
Put a nice rustic background like Yellowstone.
Did you want the screen on, or do you want all the lights on?
I'll take it.
Do you know what a screen is? Back in the day?
Of course, that was a form of entertainment back then. Again?
I believe I can just reach. Do you have the height really? I have to use this.
I haven't taught in this room in a couple of years, but unless I shrunk, I think I could do
It's
it.
better than the Dean crawling the other one.
Do you want the screen rolled?
I don't get it.
Oh, look at that.
There it is. You got it.
There.
You got it.
Now we got more problems. Make sure this one on.
Magic touch.
All right, so I have had the pleasure this year of working on senior thesis research with Nolan Waldorf Reynolds. Susie has also been seeing the honors part of his thesis, which made this kind of an interesting project, as things usually tend to be with Nolan. And as we kind of worked through this process, part of this kind of developed out of a paper Nolan wrote as a freshman in my methods class. I went on to win the undergraduate history prize at the Northern Great Plains History Conference. And if you know Nolan, he's been very interested in Teddy Roosevelt and the Gilded Age and Progressive Era, and environmental history broadly. As it's a night full of good news, I don't think Nolan would mind sharing with you that he's been accepted a fully funded MA PhD program at the University of Kansas, which should be very exciting next step in his journey as he moves on from here. Unfortunately, Nolan can't join us this evening, and I offered to present his research myself, but instead he found a substitute who's time traveled from far in this mist of the past to join us. So without further ado, some guy named Teddy.
Quite a bully introduction. Thank you for that. I quite appreciate it. Now, I am Theodore Roosevelt. Before we get too far into this program, I do typically ask a question of you younger folks. Now, I have to warn you, you're in the splash zone. Everyone else is far in the back, which I think is a good idea. But I do have a question to ask of you younger folks in the back there, where they are all cornered, some over here. How many of you have any idea what you want to be when you grow up? Theodore Roosevelt. You want to be me? Well, I think that's maybe the bulliest answer I could think of. Anyone else? Too afraid to raise your hands at this point? Well, I know many of you are graduating, so hopefully you can figure it out soon. But otherwise, I do typically ask the question of the older folks, maybe the more learned folks in the room. How many of you still have no idea what you want to be when you grow up? I know I fall into that camp. Now, of course, I'm sure many of you recognize me as the 26th President of the United States of America, perhaps even the father of American conservation. I did save over 230 million acres of public land during my time in national office. However, there was a time before I ever entered national office that I decided I was all but done with American politics. After a couple of rough years in the New York General Assembly, I did decide to hang up my political cap and switch it out for a wide-brim felt ranching cap to block out the harsh Dakotan sun. I'm getting quite ahead of myself, however, so in order to connect the dots for you folks, we ought to go back to the beginning. I was born October 27th, 1858, 28 East 20th Street, Manhattan, New York City. I was born second to 4 children, to my mother, Martha Bullock, and my father, Theodore Roosevelt Sr. It was my older sister, Anna, whom we lovingly referred to as Bammy, then myself, our younger brother, Elliot, who was often my hunting companion, and our youngest sister, Corinne Roosevelt, the poet. Some of you might be familiar with her work even today. Now, we were fortunate enough in New York to have an outdoor piazza of sorts, but surely that did not stop us from going out and gallivanting in the streets, dodging the horses and the carriages as they went by. I, however, did have my fair share of physical ailments when I was a boy. My asthma was amongst the worst. Not all too uncommon to see me loaded up in a carriage in the middle of the night with my father in order to race through the streets of New York at breakneck speeds to force a little bit of air into my young lungs. Might sound wild to some of you folks, but I much prefer that to the smoking cigars and sipping whiskey treatments they tried for my asthma when I was 4 years old. We know more about asthma today, don't we? But I had a bully time growing up in New York. It was in the city that my love for nature came to be. When I was 8 years old, walking down a particular section of Broadway Street known as the Ladies' Mile, in between Union and Madison Squares. And as I walked, I passed a familiar grocery store. And in between the fruit and the vegetable carts was a slab of wood. And on that slab of wood was a harbor seal that had been caught less than a day ago. Piqued my interest. Didn't take me long to run my hand down the smooth pelt of that harbor seal. But what else did I do? Well, I reckon I did what any sensible 8-year-old would do in that scenario. I quickly ran home, gathered my supplies, a pencil, a notebook, and a ruler, and I made my way back to that grocery store in order to take notes on the specimen. Not only did I take notes on that one harbor seal, but I wrote an entire natural history of harbor seals based off of that one in the grocery store. 8 years old. I would try to barter with the grocer, of course, asking him if I could take the harbor seal home with me for future research. He did not budge. He did, however, cut off the head of the harbor seal and allow me to take that home. So you can imagine 8-year-old me walking down Broadway Street in New York with the severed head of a harbor seal in my hands. Even more so, the look on my parents' face when I arrived at home. I did clean it up real nice in our kitchen. And that skull of the harbor seal was the first of 12 specimens to be entered into my boyhood museum, the Theodore Roosevelt Museum of Natural History. Ran out of my bedroom. That bedroom boyhood collection of mine would go on to amass over 100 specimens, dead and alive, throughout my childhood. My mother recounting how in the morning I would open my bedroom window and leave it that way all day to see what kind of birds or vermin might want to join my collection come evening. But I loved it. My love for natural history did not waver. In my late teens, I would go to Harvard University to study natural history. Later on in life, I would say, Harvard did not do me too much good outside of its general effect. Now I thought, if one wished to learn about nature, well, they're better off doing it outdoors in nature, you know, hunting and hiking, swimming and boating, and all those good sorts of things. But not stuck in a classroom, listening to a professor who had obviously never done any of those things himself. But I did stick with it. And alas, as I alluded to earlier, I would go on to become the political hack, joining the New York General Assembly shortly after my graduation from Harvard. I would write one of my friends, "Don't expect me to continue in politics any further than this 1 year in the New York General Assembly, for I am not." Well, you folks know how that turned out for me, of course. If you've worked your own job in government or politicking, however, you might understand. It does not lend itself to spending that much time outdoors, which was still my true passion. So in 1883, I decided to go on a trip to Medora, far off in the Dakota Territory, to the Badlands. Can anyone here tell me exactly why I wanted to go there, out of all places? A room full of students, not one hand in the air. Any guesses? I'll take it.
Topography.
Topography. That's a good guess. Has a little bit more to do with what lived in that topography. Buffalo. A bully answer indeed. To hunt a bison bull. It's important you folks understand that the great American bison kill was already taking place. The federal government thought if they killed off the American buffalo, well, they would kill off the American Indian as well. Now, I understood as a sportsman and a naturalist that if I wanted a trophy for myself, well, I had to go do it now before there's none left to get. So I got on a train from New York, and I went west. Not to Medora, but to a town right next door called Little Missouri. Locals call it Little Misery, to be sure. Seated right on the Little Missouri River there in the Badlands. When I got there, it was 2 in the morning, dark outside. I stepped off the train, not onto a depot station, but right into the sagebrush, about waist high. So I dragged my duffel bags and my hunting rifles to the largest of the darkened buildings in Little Missouri, the Pyramid Park Hotel. And I would spend much of my next morning looking for a hunting guide for this great bison hunt. If you haven't noticed by now, I've always had a bit of a high-pitched voice. And I have spectacles, or glasses, which is what I believe you folks call them nowadays, which the cowboys in the Badlands thought was a moral defect of character. So you can imagine the field day those very same cowboys had with me when I was looking for my hunting guide. 4 eyes, 4 eyes. There's surely no way that you could go hunt a bison, much less a prairie dog. Have you ever even shot a rifle? They did not know that I had already gone on several accomplished hunts, and I was quite the successful sportsman. But surely enough, it did take some time. I would come across a fellow named Joe Ferris, and he decided he would be my hunting guide. Later in life, Joe Ferris would say it was simply because I had the smell of money about me that he decided to be my guide, but I did not care. I wanted to hunt. We spent that afternoon loading up our buckboard wagons before heading 7 or so miles south, upriver on the Little Missouri, to the Chimney Butte Ranch, known to the locals as the Maltese Cross Ranch. We met its 2 proprietors, Sylvain Ferris, the brother of Joe Ferris, my hunting guide, and Bill Merrifield, another Canadian. Now, they were rather cold. I tried to break the ice by asking about the prospects of the ranching industry, whether or not they enjoyed their time in Dakota, but they did not seem too keen to share their business with a stranger. So the awkward silence continued through dinner, and even a card game of old sledge we played back then. It was not until a couple of hours later, when we heard a bobcat outside in the hen house, that the 4 of us men grabbed our hunting rifles, made our way outside, shooting and hollering at that bobcat, that we were finally laughing and talking freely at once. It was a strange way of a cowboy, but I did love it. The next morning, Joe Ferris and I would head 40 miles further south to the Lang Ranch, sole proprietor being Gregor Lang, and his son Lincoln Lang lived there with him as well. For the next 2 weeks, we would spend each day hunting, looking for this bison bull, and it rained nearly every single day. I don't know if any of you folks have been fortunate enough to be out in the Badlands of North Dakota now, but they have what's called gumbo mud. And when it rains, not only is it sticky, but it's quite slippery. The horses hate it, and Joe Ferris hated it too. Every morning he would come to me and say, "Mr. Roosevelt, we ought to wait a day or two before we go out on our hunt." I would look right back at him and say, "Well, Mr. Ferris, that surely seems no way of a cowboy. We're going to be out there every day, rain or shine, going after my bison." That's what I was paying him for, right? So we would hunt, long days out in the Badlands on the plains, soaking wet to return back to the Lang Ranch at night. And I would stay up till 1, 2, sometimes 3 in the morning, having conversations with Gregor Lang about politics, religion, business, and all good sorts of things. It was those late nights with Gregor Lang and those full days of hunting that made me realize I wanted my own stake in the Dakotas. I would ask Gregor Lang if I could buy into his share of cattle. He told me he was already indebted to another gentleman on the East Coast, did not want to be indebted to me as well, which I understood. But, he added, if I were to ask Sylvain Ferris and Bill Merrifield of the Maltese Cross Ranch, they might oblige. Some days later, they came down and met us at the Lang residence, and I asked them the same question I had asked Gregor Lang days before. How much would it cost? Bill Merrifield looked at me and said, it would look the likes of $40,000, but 1/3 of that would start it off real nice. I did what any sensible businessman would do. I reached in my pocket, I pulled out my checkbook, and I wrote a check for $14,000, and I handed it right over. He asked me if I wanted a receipt. I told him I did not care for the paper trail. I was to stay in Medora, where those 2 men went to Minnesota to break their current contract. I did not mind that either, because I still had a bison on. The next morning, Joe Ferris and I would set off even further west into the Montana Territory. Coming over a ridge, we saw my trophy, a great bison bull. Before he could turn its head to look at us or lift its tail to run, I put a bullet right in behind its left shoulder. We chased it some way off before it finally fell. But coming up on the specimen, we got off our horses. I walked up to the carcass of the great bison bull on the ground, and I danced what I thought was my best Native American war chief dance all the way around the carcass of that specimen. And Joe Ferris looked at me in the same way many of you folks are looking at me now. But I was excited. I finally got my trophy. After I came down a little bit, my feet back on the earth, I pulled out my billfold and I gave Joe Ferris a $100 tip for his troubles as a hunting guide. $100, the likes of $3,000 in today's money. Not a bad tip for 2 weeks of hunting. Like I said, I bought my stake in the Dakotas. I would have to go back east to New York. I was still the New York Assemblyman. But while I was gone that winter, my 2 ranch hands now, Sylvain Ferris and Bill Merrifield, would build me a new 1.5-story tall cabin, the Maltese Cross Ranch cabin. I would have another cabin built for myself in the coming year, the Elkhorn Ranch, some 40 miles north of that site. And I would stay out there for the years to come. Now, back to my original question. How many of you folks have any idea what you want to be when you grow up? Well, I don't think that there is a right answer to that question. If you were to look at the likes of my life, you could see maybe the former President of the United States of America, perhaps even the father of American conservation. Or you could see the 20-something-year-old dude from New York who wanted absolutely nothing to do with American politics, but wanted to spend his entire time out on the ranch, riding horseback, hunting, hiking, shooting at things, and being a cowboy. That was my greatest joy in life. Down the road, later on in life, I would say an infinity of excuses can always be found for non-action. If there is something you even remotely think you might want to do in your life, I encourage you to chase after it. It might just make all the difference you need. Buddy! Thank you, folks. So I do want to thank...
Or is it?
Which is the real you.
That's, yeah, the lines get blurred more and more every day. I do want to thank Dr. Mason again for the good introduction. Let me get some water. So, My name is Nolan. I am a senior here at Waldorf for about 4 more days, and then I become an alumni. But anyways, I have spent the last 2 summers in Theodore Roosevelt National Park in Medora, way out 30 minutes away from the Montana border on the west side of North Dakota there. And my first summer there, I was just a visitor service clerk working in the visitor center of the national park, helping people not get lost on their hikes and those sorts of things. And I grew a mustache because I thought it would be fun. And oddly enough, some guy came up to me and said, "You look like Theodore Roosevelt." And he was wearing a mask. And this was in 2022. And I said, okay. Didn't really think much of it. But then he pulled his mask down, and he was wearing glasses like these, and he had a mustache. And he's like, "I play Theodore Roosevelt in the town of Medora." Which Medora, of course, has a rich history, not only surrounding Theodore Roosevelt, but also the Marquis de Moors, some other large players in the wild, not so wild at that time, the Wild West. And there is a living to be made in that, and he does, still does, Larry Marple is his name, a lot of those performances out there as TR. So he encouraged me. They do a Chautauqua. Any of you have any idea what Chautauqua is, students? Okay, so back in the day, like stemming from the New York area, correct me if I'm wrong, big tent sort of, kind of like this, where you have a lot of people coming in from different backgrounds, kind of sharing their findings, and just a big academic snooze fest. It's awesome. I like it. But they do that each year in Medora. 4 Teddies, TRs, come from all over the United States and present. We also bring in other people that do living history interpretation, and they present as well. So that summer in 2022, I made my debut as Theodore Roosevelt. And went back last summer, and they had seen me, the park saw me do that, so naturally they gave me a position at the park to do programming full-time as Theodore Roosevelt. So I spent at least 2 hours every day last summer being TR. I was not wearing this is my New York Assemblyman garb. When I'm out there, I have a full buckskin suit and that wide brim felt ranching cap like he had. And it is like 90 degrees every day in July out there. At least it feels like it when you're wearing that stuff. So anyways, I've loved it, and it has definitely spurred my love for TR in ways I didn't think were imaginable. So with my thesis, really shortly, one of the intersections that I think a lot of historians gloss over are the intellectual or maybe the philosophical or emotional relationship that Theodore Roosevelt has with nature. Everyone understands that he loved nature, of course, conservation as president, 230 million acres of public land during his time in national office, and all those sorts of things, which is awesome. But there are stories, of which I didn't even present today, of Theodore Roosevelt's father dying when he was 19 years old when he was attending Harvard University. Or his wife dying when he was, what was it?
Died in childbirth?
Yes, she died in childbirth, and that was St. Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1884. His wife, Alice Lee, gave birth, died in childbirth. He was upstate in Albany, New York Assemblyman, and he thought that he could be there and everything would be fine. So that morning, he got a telegram saying that his daughter had been born, saw his friends and even political opponents from the opposite side of the aisle congratulate him. He was now a father. And then just a few hours later, he got a second telegram saying that he needs to return home immediately because not only is Alice, his wife, sick, but his mother, Martha Bullock, was also sick as well. So there was a haze covering New York at the time, so normally he would have been able to get there in about 5 hours, but it took a full day's travel and from the trains. And he got there home. His younger brother Elliot, answered the door and said, "A curse has fallen on this house. Not only is mother sick, but your wife Alice is sick too." And so Theodore Roosevelt would spend that next day, St. Valentine's Day, or I should say February 13th, with his wife on her deathbed, leaving only one time to say goodbye to his mother, who passed away at about 2 in the morning, I believe, on February 14th. And then his wife passed away at about 3 p.m. on St. Valentine's Day. Now I tell you these really sad stories so that we can get a gist of what he did to cope with these things. Well, when he was at Harvard, and his father died earlier on when he was 19 years old, he didn't know what to do, but growing up, I talked about his naturalist tendencies. He loved collecting things. He had his own little natural history museum in his bedroom. His father really spurred him on in that endeavor. And they would go out and they would spend their summers out in the woods, and he loved being out in nature. Well, when his father passed, he then realized that maybe that would do him some good, so then he went up north to the woods of Maine, met two men there, Bill Sewell and Wilmot Dow, and those two men, I would argue, ended up changing his life as far as just showing him what it's like to live off the land and to kind of harden oneself through the toil of having to do that one time. And he loved it, but he was still a Harvard student, and he would go back to school. But once he was finished with Harvard and he was in the New York Assembly, he then decided to go on this hunting trip with a friend to Dakota. His friend pulled out 4 days before. He decided that he would still go by himself, which he did. And of course, he goes on a hunting trip, buys the ranch, as I told in the story. And then that coming spring is when his mother and his wife died. So then those ranches in Medora really became his safe haven. So, long story short, really what my thesis was about was talking about those connections that he had, the spiritual healing and the emotional and physical healing even that he found in the wild, and how those sorts of things can really help people overcome then and even now that we have science-backed evidence that nature helps with those wounds. Back then it was just maybe this, romantic transcendentalist notion, but now we have science-backed proof that nature really does help with those wounds. And I think that Theodore Roosevelt is a fantastic case study of that. But that's all I have for you guys. So thank you again. Appreciate it. Any questions? I'm sorry, there's questions. There are questions.
So in the presentation that you do at Medora, how much are you able to write that script or edit that script?
Yeah.
And to what extent has your scholarly endeavors informed your presentation?
So this program I did here today, minus some, it would have been about 5 minutes longer if I left it. I try to run about 15 to 20 minutes. That's what I do multiple times a day for visitors, and I wrote that script. Now, that script, I will say, I wrote it, I pieced it together, but I attempted really hard in writing it. A lot of those are pulled directly from Theodore Roosevelt's autobiography, when he's talking about his life growing up, his emotions, feeling these things, people saying that he had a moral defect in character because he had glasses, those sorts of things were pulled directly from his autobiography. So that being a scholar and part of having to do that research and then write my own script, because when I was tasked with doing these programs at the national park, they were like, yeah, you're writing your own script, we're not going to provide you with anything. But I was up for the challenge. That is a huge part of it, taking what I've learned. Luckily, I took methods really early on in my Waldorf experience, so then I was able to just be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And so that really did aid me in putting and piecing the program together. So every program I do, and I do other programs too. I do some solely as a New York Assemblyman. I did a longer 1 hour long show this past summer in a theater, which is awesome. So I write all those scripts.
Cool. Do you plan to return to do that this summer?
I am returning this summer. I have yet to decide if it'll be my farewell tour. My dad tells me that I will live in Medora for the rest of my life. So I can't, but this summer I will be there for sure. Yes.
That sweet, sweet Dickinson state job.
Yeah, right. Abby?
Do you have speech experience in high school?
I did a lot of theater when I was in high school.
Okay, you're good.
I did a lot of theater in high school and middle school, so that's where that comes from.
2 questions. First, just about your act. So the accent is great. Are there any recordings of Teddy you've been able? I know there's some of FDR.
Yeah.
Are there any of Teddy?
Yeah, so there are some of Teddy when he is a president, so much older, and also just because of the technology, it's just awful, very tinny sounding. But he, even in those recordings, you can't really hear what he's saying, but you can hear his voice, right? Now, there are a lot of accounts of people talking about how he talked, which was very fast-paced. When he would give speeches, he was often on his toes, kind of, like running around the stage, giving his fists and whatnot. And he also had a really high-pitched voice. And the people that pointed out the most, of course, were the cowboys in the West, because they're like, who's this guy? And then the dude from New York is what they called him. And then also some of his political opponents in the assembly referring to him as a dandy or things like that. So yeah, he had very talked fast, a little bit of a New York accent, really high-pitched voice. So that's kind of what
I never pictured, now I was pictured, because he was a
Right,
good-sized man. I
right.
was pictured a deep voice and Teddy Roosevelt, even the name Theodore.
And he was very, he had a lot of physical ailments. He was very undersized.
That's the other thing I was,
Yeah.
he was.
Especially when he was young.
So, and that was my second question.
Yeah.
What happened with his asthma? How did that play into all the outdoor stuff and how he did the rest of his life?
Yeah, so he really, this idea of muscular Christianity was huge at the time, right? So this idea of I need to build myself up, I need to be stronger, and I'm a man, and I'm going to lead my household and whatever. That was huge at the time, and his dad played a huge part in that. So especially when his dad passed, but even before then, when he was at Harvard, he was rowing, he was boxing at Harvard and doing all those things, really trying to build himself up and build his strength. And he went on a hunting trip right after his graduation from Harvard with his brother Elliot that actually brought him to Iowa. And so he was hunting in this area. And then he got back from that trip, and the doctor told him, okay, you need to stop doing this because you're going to kill yourself. And the doctor's words, he said, so much as going up a flight of stairs could do it for you. And Theodore Roosevelt's like, screw that. That sounds like an awful way to live. I'm just going to keep building myself up and doing these things. And but that initially would still bite him. I mean, he wasn't very old when he died. He was 60, just over 60. So he lived that strenuous life, and then it would haunt him in the end, I think.
Did they really give him cigars?
Yeah, that was a real thing.
Smoking is a therapy.
Yeah, smoking was a therapy. Yeah. Yes.
Did he have a faith tradition? Did he go to church?
Yeah, that is growing up, honestly, I used to know more about this, and it's definitely fallen by the wayside. And as someone knows, I want to say his family was like Presbyterian, which is what it would make sense. I would say as religious as any other New York elite was at that time. Showing up at church and, getting your face out there and whatnot. But definitely that aspect of muscular Christianity, like it was religious for him, and he definitely had a personal connection, at least, with faith.
Will you pursue this in your PhD? Is this an avenue you're hoping to do more of?
Yeah,
Is that-
well, officially, according to my statement of purpose,
Yes.
I want to study American environmental history during the Gilded Age and Progressive Era, which is kind of what Dr. Mason outlined.
Yeah.
But, gosh, I don't know if TR is going to keep haunting me for the rest of my life. But definitely, I think the aspect of the environment being kind of a healing factor then, and people maybe not understanding that in its full, or the whole conservationist, preservationist debate, which is also huge a little later on in TR's life. I think those are probably avenues that I'll stay on for a while.
So your freshman year, you were investigating Thoreau and Emerson and
Yes.
Transcendentalism. How much scholarly connections have there been made between what TR, his view of nature,
Yeah.
and kind of that Eastern intellectual, the mosquitoes are an orchestra, my ear kind of thing?
He loved reading them. I mean, that's a big part of it. He loved literature and poetry. People refer to him, of course, as a conservation president, but I think he's also the most literary president as far as not only his writings, but also just his intake of other people's writings.
He read on a permanent
He read Anna Karenina, and his response to Anna Karenina was, whether I hardly know whether or not to call it a very bad book. So, which is fun. We just got done reading that book.
Read it in a week.
Yeah, he read it in a week. He devoured Anna Karenina in his own words. But, so I think that at that time, that was his kind of connection. But he also had a much deeper scientific connection to nature. You know, he was the American Museum of Natural History that went up in New York, which had its founding meeting in 28 East 20th Street in the Roosevelt residence. Like, he was deeply connected with all those people. Theodore Roosevelt Sr. brought the whole family to the ribbon cutting ceremony. Some of TR's findings and stuff, even from when he was a boy, are still in that museum. And so I think that while he is getting this big literary sense of like Emerson and Thoreau and those sorts of ideals towards nature, he's also taking like a very deeply scientific approach to nature as well, especially when it comes to naturalism and sportsmanship and those sorts of things. Yes.
So, building on that, was he involved in the most scientific side of the West, like Cope and Morse out there digging up on the dinosaurs and stuff in 1870s? Did he ever get involved in that kind of craze of it, or was he separate?
No, he was definitely, now initially, his whole thing was like, because he grew up reading, you know, tales of Boone and Crockett and those sorts of things. So in his own diary, when he talks about like going to the West and getting his first buckskin suit and stuff like that, he's like, I'm look just like my childhood heroes. And he very much was living this like cowboy life, not so much interested in the scientific aspect of what was going on up there. And he would not, you know, until later on in presidency and stuff, like he would go on this Great Western tour and establish places like Wind Cave National Park, which is about 5 hours south of Medora in South Dakota. And he would go out to Yosemite, of course, visit John Muir and stuff like that, where the more science debates and conversations he was a part of were that conservationist versus preservationist, still mainly just focused on keeping the land. And because many of his enemies at that time were saying preservationist, let's put up fences and no one goes in here. And he was saying, well, we can use it, just use it smartly. So that was more of how he was scientifically, I would say. Like while he was president, he wasn't able to hunt or do any of those things because of that, how big that debate was. No one wanted, like, or I should say maybe his publicity team were like, yeah, you can't go do that. But anyways, so yeah. I don't want to take up any more time because I know we have another presentation. Do you have like one more quick question, Max?
I was going to ask, wasn't it that he was shot during the speech?
Yes, he was shot in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was in Wisconsin. I think it was Milwaukee. When he was giving a speech for the Bull Moose campaign, which was would have been his third term in office. Well, yeah, right. It's hard to say because he was vice president. He came into the presidency because of an assassination. Had a second term. What have you? Had Taft take over his spot. Realized after Taft's term that he hated Taft, so then he ran against him under the Bull Moose Party. So he was giving a speech in Wisconsin, and he had his eyeglass case, and his entire, I think it was 80-page speech, was folded in half in his pocket, and he happened to get shot right there. And so it went through the speech, lodged in his through the eyeglass container, and was lodged in his chest. But then he gave the rest of the speech, which was awesome. And that shirt that he was wearing with the blood stain, because whoever, I guess the Smithsonian, I don't know, whoever at the time was like, we can't wash that, is actually in Medora at the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. So you can see the shirt with a hole in it in the blood. So, all right, thank you guys.
Okay, so we'll take a few more minutes to switch over for our next speaker.
got the, Elaine, or is Elaine still here?
I have an adapter.
No, I'm looking for,
Oh, I think it's on the whiteboard over there.
Hi.
Good, how are you?
How are the consoles?
Good. I think so. A little bit. It's been tired since the musical was over. And I haven't had a break. So. Yeah.
Right.
But I think it was all right. Not the greatest. But, you know.
I gave up long ago on the
We have
remote,
an
I
hour
just
and
used the
15
stick and
minutes
push the
of
button.
choir music. Then we'll break.
Just to make the
Yeah.
difference.
So I was a little bit exhausted by then. In the last song. So that was great.
Saxophone structure.
Yes, on Sunday. Or jazz on Saturday. And then.
My sister.
I think there's 15, 20 minutes worth of presentation before you read it.
Didn't she have costume?
Oh, yeah, here, that's.
Yeah.
I was
She's a fan. She's a 77-year-old fan.
The issue was, Grace, did I get another edit? Have you sent one in?
Yeah.
For your class of 2024.
It's on.
Because it mentioned. I haven't seen one of them.
I did submit one that was
Look what I did at the end, it's like 8 comments. Which could be that that's how this will come across as well if they want another spin on it.
Nolan came.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, that's excellent.
It's a beautiful script. It is. I just want to.
If you go to the pitch form on the stake on an actual pitch form.
For who? Alpha guy.
I presented the story that I wrote. And I have more things, but.
You might want to get the license.
That's the one that you got this year or last year?
This year, and well, I won't.
Did you let Sarah and the rest know that we wanted Alpha Chi? No. Oh, that's who we told. You let Katie and Tara know, and then they'll put it in social media posts. Unless we tell them. That's where they should go. They go to the Honors Lounge, and it makes it all
Joe
happen.
Mylan know that last week, not telling my guys, I told him, and, last week. So Josh was Josh, right, anything about that,
Well, congratulations. I wasn't paying attention. Not unusual.
Thank you all for coming for our third and final presentation tonight by Hannah Meyer, who will be introduced by her advisor, Carlos Ruiz.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I have the honor of introducing the last speaker of the Student Inquirere series, and tonight she chose me to be her thesis advisor, and I am certainly very thankful for that opportunity. So Hannah Meyer is a senior here at Waldorf University and is originally from St. Louis, Missouri. She has majored in communications with an emphasis in digital media, graphic design, public relations, and journalism. And on top of all of that, she has a minor in creative writing. So although many of us faculty and staff members know her as Hannah, she is also known as Bubbles by many of her close friends due to her bubbly personality and love for carbonated drinks. She has a soda right over there if you want further proof of that. She loves things, all creative things, including color guard, digital arts, writing, drawing, and photography. And recently she directed a short film named Light Bulb and has been featured in 3 film festivals thus far and won Best Local Film at the Iowa Independent Film Festival last September. So please welcome Hannah Meyer.
I'm going to start by apologizing because I just lost my voice. So I'm going to keep this with me and hope I can project enough. Okay, I'm going to go to this side. Hi. Okay, so my presentation is entitled The Creation and Writing of a Short Film. For this presentation, or for this project, I wrote a script with working through my screenwriting class that I took this year. I've been waiting 4 years for a screenwriting class, and it finally happened. And I'm just sad I am missing screenwriting too. But through this process, we were able to kind of implement kind of that stuff and work ahead through kind of what would happen in screenwriting to get the full script. So, when it comes to the screenwriting process, you always have to start with developing an idea. And from that, you have to have an idea, which is really, really hard sometimes. One of the good ways to kind of come up with an idea is think of a what if. Like, what if I was giving my presentation right now and a horde of zombies came in here? And you got a story idea right there. And then from that, once you have your idea, you build in your protagonist and your antagonist, and you have your ultimate problem that's happening, and figure out how all of those are going to work together. From that, you create a logline. A logline tells what the movie is all about. It's one line, typically no longer than a sentence, and it tells you the character, it tells you what's happening, and it's got to have a hook. So you want your viewer, whoever's reading this and watching it, to get hooked in so that they do not want to leave. They want to see what this is all about. It's typically kind of like what you would have on like the back of a movie, but it's just that one line. And what makes a really good logline is adding adjectives. Almost spelled there myself. Sorry. It's super important because it adds color, and it's like it adds description to the most basic idea. Like a man walks into the door, but a sketchy man walks into the door. It's a totally different story. So for my script, my logline was put together right here. And it is when a paranoid man suspects someone is stealing his blood and organs when he sleeps, he refuses to believe his psychiatrist's diagnosis that it's all in his head. So from that, I've got the adjective describing the man, I've got a psychiatrist in there, I've got the problem, and all of that's working together. The next step is kind of building off of this 7-beat structure. The 7-beat structure is built off of your normal world, your inciting incident, first half of the second act, midpoint, second half of the second act, the climax, and the new world result. In the normal world, it's just kind of how that protagonist's world is before anything else happens. What's happening before the inciting incident. And this is the thing that kind of tips his world off kilter. Like, what is causing the problem? Then you move into your first half of the second act, which then brings into your midpoint, in your second half. This, in the second act, is where all of the action happens. It's where a love interest can happen. It's where the journey is happening until you ultimately get to the climax and the showdown, which is that peak point where everything, you don't know what's happening. You're going to determine whether or not your protagonist is going to win or lose. And then following that, you have your end world result, your new world, how the character changed from everything that happens to them on their journey. once you have your 7-beat structure, you can start moving into your outline. And your outline is typically your script, but without any dialogue, unless it's completely necessary, like it has to have these words for it to make sense. And it typically tells what the story is happening. It'll be in about the same format as a script. Like everything's the same, except there's no specific dialogue. And then you move into your script. And from your script, you take your outline and you add in all of the important dialogue, and it shows the story rather than just telling you this happens. It makes it more of a story. Something I had to learn the hard way was that when you write your script, it's gonna be messy, and it's not gonna be perfect the first time. But with visions, it can clean up and be much better, much better. After I had my script, I had to go into casting. So when it comes to casting, you have to know where to look for a cast. For my project, I knew I wanted to do a table read here, so I needed to look for people who would be available or close. So one of the places I looked at was Brick Street Theater, because they've got a lot of great talent, and they've got well, phenomenal talent. So I looked there. And then we also did a table read practice in preparation for this. And then we worked on some of the things that we wanted to adjust, that like work on that communication about what I intended for the script and how other people interpreted it when they read it. And so they didn't work together. For my cast, I've casted Sean Thompson as Garrett. And Garrett is the kind of nervous hypochondriac of the story. And Sean is a lawyer here in Forest City, and he's worked with a variety of different acting roles while also working with Brick Street. My psychiatrist is Julie Keeley. She's the Director of Business Affairs Office here at Waldorf, and she's worked with Brick Street as well as theater and TV while living in New York City and LA. And I have Eric Forsberg here. She will be reading for Janelle, and she works as a music professor here at Waldorf, and she's worked with Brick Street as well as acting in college. Without further ado, the table read of Art of the Matter. I will have Carlos reading the actions because I can't. Thank you.
Gotcha. Are you guys able to see okay?
Yes.
Do we need more?
Okay.
Okay. All right, Heart of the Matter written by Hannah Meyer. Interior apartment living room day. Camera pans over room as two people speak off screen. The room is an open apartment with a living room and kitchen connected. The bedroom is separated with a door. A picture of a man and his wife can be seen, as well as a newspaper clipping of his wife's death hidden in plain sight, surrounded by various trinkets.
It has to be.
And why do you think that?
Well, there's the headaches, muscle soreness. Oh, and the fever.
99 degrees is hardly a fever.
But it's 99.2. I'm usually a steady 98.7.
I think you'll be all right.
Camera pan lands on Garrett Hart, 31. Dr. Ella Bell, 56. Garrett psychiatrist. Garrett has messy brown hair and unkempt stubble. He is dressed in gray sweatpants and a t-shirt. Dr. Bell is well dressed in comparison with the pale pink blazer. Her blonde hair is pulled back into a neat bun on top of her head. She wears glasses.
What about the hair loss?
What hair loss?
Well, this morning after my shower, my hair was all falling out. Want me to prove it?
Garrett heads to the bathroom. Dr. Bell stops him.
Garrett, I don't think you have lupus.
Well, why not?
All of these symptoms you've presented are common. They're normal changes that can happen to anyone.
But they're also symptoms of lupus. WebMD said so.
WebMD is not a doctor. It'll give you all kinds of suggested illnesses on the most basic symptoms. Besides, I thought we decided no more WebMD searches.
Dr. Bell takes notes on her small notebook. Garrett is visibly nervous now that he has been caught.
I needed to check to make sure that everything was all right.
You know that it just stresses you out more.
But if I can't look it up, how am I supposed to know if anything is wrong?
Just text me and we can work through it together like we always do, all right?
Garrett fiddles with the arm of the chair for a moment before responding.
All right.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Dr. Bell jots down a few more notes in her notebook. Garrett stares off into space. Dr. Bell looks up from her notes.
What's on your mind?
In a few days, Molly will have been gone for 3 years.
I know. She meant a lot to you.
I used to text her every time we ran out of bread or needed more from the store. Or every time I forgot to pick up the newspaper from downstairs, which happened more often than it didn't. But now I'm texting a psychiatrist every time I think I'm dying. How pathetic does that sound?
Garrett doesn't wait for an answer. He stands up and makes his way to the fridge. It isn't more than a few feet away from where he was sitting. He pulls out a small bottle of cranberry juice and makes his way back to his seat.
Have you ever thought it might be the loss of your wife that's causing so much stress for you?
She was everything to me. And to have been accused of being the one responsible for her death? If you're looking for reasons, that's a pretty obvious one right there.
Garrett gets very frustrated and emotional as past events involving his wife's death flood back to him.
Police will look into everyone as a suspect evenly. And as painful as it may seem, the husband isn't dismissed from the same treatment.
Do I look like a murderer to you, Dr. Bell?
If they still thought you had something to do with it, you wouldn't be sitting here with me now, would you?
Garrett gives Dr. Bell a look and releases his built-up tension.
It's okay to still miss Molly, but I think we both know she wouldn't want you to keep yourself locked up in your apartment.
Garrett sits in silence. Dr. Bell's words sink in. He knows she's right.
If not trying to get better for you, maybe it's time to try for Molly.
I'm not sure I even remember what normal is anymore.
I really think that working to move past Molly's death will help you to achieve that goal.
Garrett nods slowly in agreement. Dr. Bell packs up her things into her bag and makes her way to the door. Garrett makes his way to the kitchen portion of the main apartment. Dr. Bell opens the door.
Keep up with those breathing exercises before sleeping, too. I think it will help.
The door closes behind Dr. Bell. Garrett pops a microwave meal from the freezer into the microwave. Interior apartment bedroom day. The next morning, Garrett wakes up and gets ready for the day. He moves robotically. It's routine. Garrett makes his way to the bathroom connected to his room. On the counter is a brush, double-edged safety razor, and 3 packs of blades. He grabs his brush from the counter. There's barely any hair in it. He gently brushes. Garrett brushes his teeth. His reflection in the mirror reveals a small mark on his arm. He spits and immediately inspects his arm more closely. He pulls out his phone to message Dr. Bell. Text on the screen.
We need to talk. I think something is happening. It's urgent.
Garrett debates before pressing send. Interior apartment living room later. Garrett and Dr. Bell sit together in the same way as before. Dr. Bell wears a similar blazer, but this time it's a light purple. She's proven herself to be thoughtful of how she looks.
I swear, it wasn't there before.
It could just be a mark from the last time you gave blood.
I haven't given blood since Molly died. I don't want to give my blood to anyone. It could be used against me to frame me. I've sat in a court once before, and I will not be doing it again. Besides, this is fresh.
Well, if it wasn't from donating, what do you think it was?
Garrett leans in close towards Dr. Bell.
I think someone's stealing my blood.
I think that's highly unlikely.
How would you know? There are 6 floors in this apartment building, and 4 or 5 on each floor. One of these people could be an absolute psycho.
I'm sorry, Garrett, but I don't think that's what's happening here.
But
I think this is an extension of your hypochondria. Cotard's delusion.
oh, what? So I'm delusional now?
No. In the case of Cotard's delusion, it's common to believe that one is missing blood or even that it's being stolen. But it doesn't mean that it's true.
So you don't believe me?
I never said that.
Well, will it pass?
As you continue to work towards bettering yourself, yes, it will pass.
Dr. Bell pulls out a bottle of medication from her bag.
This will help with the added stress. Take half of one in the morning and the other half at night. Be sure to always have something to eat with it.
Thanks.
Garrett takes the bottle from Dr. Bell.
Also, maybe try making a real meal or something. I'm no nutritionist, but there's no way those microwave dinners are doing any good for your health, mental or physical.
Interior apartment living room night. Garrett is popping another meal into the microwave when a knock is heard at the door. Another knock is heard. He approaches nervously. Interior apartment front door night. Garrett opens the door to Janelle, 30, waiting with a bottle of wine and a wrapped gift. She is just as surprised to see him as he is to see her. Janelle is well dressed with curly brown hair pulled half up. She wears subtle makeup and delicate jewelry.
Oh, is this not 4B?
3B. They number the floors weird. The main lobby doesn't count as the first floor. 4B would be up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt anything. I was just looking for my brother's apartment. It's his birthday.
Well, happy birthday to your brother.
Thanks. I'll be sure to tell him. You have any siblings?
No.
Well, have you been here long?
About 6 years, yeah.
Wow. I'm originally from New Orleans, but work brought me here about a week ago. Lucky for me, my brother is also in the area. 45-minute drive for me, but only about 5 minutes from my work. I actually tried for one of these apartments, but they were all full when I applied.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. Well, I can leave you be. I should probably get going to that party anyway. It was nice to meet you.
Garrett.
Garrett. Nice to meet you. I'm Janelle. Maybe I'll see you around.
Janelle smiles and waves goodbye before making her way to the staircase down the hall. Garrett stands still, lost in thought, closes the door. Interior apartment bedroom later. Garrett sits on the edge of his bed with a new sense of calm. He takes his medication and goes to sleep peacefully. Interior apartment bedroom day. Garrett wakes up and checks the time. It's 10:37. He notices another needle mark as he climbs out of bed. This time, it is on a different part of his arm. Garrett changes clothes and brushes his teeth. He is about to message Dr. Bell when he hears a knock at the door. Interior apartment front door day. Garrett opens the door with much more ease than before. Chanel is waiting for him. This time, she holds a small container of leftover cake.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry to bother you again. I ended up staying with my brother last night to avoid the late drive. Then I thought I would bring you some of the leftover cake as an apology for maybe ruining your night.
You didn't ruin anything.
Well, you seemed annoyed by me last night.
No, not at all. Sorry, I've just been a little stressed, I guess. That's all.
Well, maybe this cake will help.
Janelle offers a cake to Garrett. He takes it.
Thanks.
The two stand in an awkward silence for a while before Janelle breaks it.
Well, I hope you have a good day.
Thanks. I hope you do as well.
Thanks.
Janelle turns to leave, and Garrett watches her mesmerized as she moves down toward the stairwell and begins to make her way down. Closes the door. Interior apartment bedroom day. Garrett places the cake on the counter. He opens the freezer and puts it next to the cake. After a moment, he puts the meal back in the freezer. Garrett grabs the cake and a fork. He sits at his small kitchen table and eats the cake. Interior apartment bedroom night. Garrett hums and whistles. He is relaxed and moves with a subtle new confidence. He switches into his pajamas, takes his medication, and crawls into bed. Just as he is about to fall asleep, his eyes shoot open. Garrett pushes the covers off of himself and examines the needle mark on his arm again. He looks around and has a thought. Interior apartment bedroom later. Garrett returns to the bedroom with a pile of blankets and pillows from the couch. He tucks them into the bed to resemble a person sleeping, leaving one pillow and blanket aside. He yawns as he admires his work. He grabs the blanket and pillow he left for himself and crawls into the bed. It is cramped, but he falls asleep quickly. Interior apartment bedroom day. Garrett wakes up in his bed and continues with the same routine as well. It is evident he is putting more effort into each thing he does. He even cleans up with his double-edged safety sword. There is one pack of blades with the razor. Interior apartment living room later. Garrett enters the main apartment area wearing a pair of jeans and a nicer t-shirt than the other times we have seen him. He makes scrambled eggs in the kitchen and sits down at the table to eat. When he sits, he notices a red dot on the thigh of his jeans. Garrett stands where he is and unzips his jeans to reveal his thigh beneath them. He pokes the new needle mark and it starts to bleed. A knock at the door. It startles Garrett. He wipes the blood away with his thumb and re-zips his jeans. He rinses his hand in the sink before rushing over to the door. Interior, apartment, front door, day. Janelle is at the door again. This time she holds a newspaper.
Hi again.
Hi.
I was just about to head to work, but I realized I accidentally left my work phone here at my brother's the other night.
And the newspaper?
Janelle looks confused for a moment. She's forgotten she was holding the newspaper. Garrett gestures to it with a nod of his head.
Oh, this is for you.
Janelle passes the newspaper over to Garrett. He takes it.
Yours was still downstairs when I buzzed in, so I thought I would grab it for you. I mean, it's Monday today, and those things are released every Wednesday, so I figured you had just forgotten about it or something.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Garrett moves to close the door, assuming the conversation has ended. Janelle stops the door before it can close.
Do you want to get dinner sometime?
What?
Garrett opens the door all the way again.
Would you want to go get something to eat sometime?
I don't really get out much.
Oh,
Janelle turns to leave, her chipper personality dull.
But we could do something here.
Janelle turns back with a smile on her face.
I like that. I can bring takeout.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Well, how about lunch today? Or is that too soon? We could do a later time, that's totally...
Lunch sounds great.
Does 12:30 work?
I'll be here.
I'll see you then.
Janelle leaves. Garrett closes the door behind her. He takes in the apartment around him. It's a mess. He pulls out a bucket of cleaning supplies. Interior apartment, living room, later. Garrett wears the same jeans and t-shirt as earlier. His hair is messy from cleaning. He's hunched over the vacuum where there is a knock at the door. Garrett looks at the time. It's 12:13. He quickly unplugs the vacuum and shoves it into his room and closes the door. Interior apartment, front door, day. Garrett opens the apartment door to a smiling Janelle with a bag of takeout in each hand.
I wasn't sure if you wanted Chinese or Italian, so I grabbed both.
Garrett lets out a small laugh, moves aside to let Janelle in. Interior apartment, living room, later. Garrett and Janelle are on the couch. Garrett's holding a bowl of buttered noodles. Janelle is using chopsticks for her chow mein. They're laughing.
Yes, and he never let me forget it. But that's what brothers are for, I guess.
Is it just the one brother then?
Yeah, but his friends were always like siblings to me, too.
I get that. My sister's friends were around all the time growing up.
Wait, I thought you said you didn't have any siblings.
I lied. I have a younger sister.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't really know you before.
it's okay. What other secrets are you hiding?
Garrett thinks for a moment.
Well, I nearly gave my dad a heart attack once when I dropped out of med school to chase a girl instead of finishing my degree.
How, really? I take it it didn't work out well.
I guess you could say that. She died.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to...
No, it's okay. It was a few years ago now.
How did she die? Wait, I shouldn't ask that. That was really uncalled for. I'm sorry.
Well, she was a photographer and filmmaker, a good one. She used to take pictures in a studio a couple blocks away. One night, she just didn't come home. Next thing I know, the police are telling me her body was found cut open in a dumpster out back.
Janelle looks at Garrett, uncertain of what to say.
Wow, I should not have told you that. I must sound crazy. I am so sorry.
No, I'm the one that should be sorry. I shouldn't have asked.
It's fine. You should probably get going, though, if you're going to make it back to work.
Right. Yeah.
Janelle gets up and gathers her trash into one of the takeout bags. The vibe is awkward between the two. Janelle gets to the door before either one of them speaks again.
Janelle,
turns.
maybe we could meet again sometime?
The awkward tension is released slightly as Janelle smiles.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Janelle closes the door behind her, leaving Garrett alone on the couch. He picks some of the remaining trash. Garrett drops a napkin on the floor, and when he kneels to pick it up, he notices the spot of blood on his jeans from earlier. He sits down at the table to think. He turns to the side to come face to face with his reflection in the mirror on the wall. He talks to it as though it will respond to him.
If someone is coming in here and stealing my blood without me waking up, they would have to know how to get around. And now I'm talking to my reflection.
Garrett gets up from the chair and makes his way into the living space. He looks at it for a moment and then moves the furniture around in different places. Garrett moves the chair a few feet from the bedroom door. Garrett moves the couch closer to the door to block the path to the bedroom. Garrett continues moving furniture and testing how difficult it is to get from the door to the bedroom. When he finishes moving furniture in the main apartment area, he moves to the bedroom. Interior, apartment, bedroom, night. Garrett finally finishes moving furniture as he pushes the bed to a different wall of the bedroom. He shoves blankets and pillows under the covers again. Instead of crawling under the bed again, he makes his way to the bathroom and locks the door behind him. Garrett takes his medication and crawls into the bathtub with a blanket and pillow before falling asleep. Interior, apartment, bedroom, day. Garrett wakes up in his bed. As he begins to get up, he is quickly stopped by a sharp pain in his stomach. Garrett lifts his bloody shirt to reveal a long cut along his abdomen. It is poorly stitched back together. He is horrified. Garrett immediately reaches for his phone. Interior, apartment, living room, later. Garrett sits on the couch. Dr. Bell lets herself in. He frantically waves her over. She sits next to him on the couch. She does not acknowledge the rearrangement of furniture and steps around it calmly.
It's not in my head. Someone is stealing not only my blood, but trying to steal my organs, too. If we don't do anything about this, I could be dead in less than a week.
Garrett, you need to calm down.
Someone is out to get me.
No one is out to get you. Just breathe.
Dr. Bell lifts Garrett's shirt to reveal the stitched cut. She pulls out a med kit from her bag and cleans up the wound.
I have slept in a different place every night, and they keep finding me.
It's probably you sleeping in unconventional places that's causing you to get hurt.
No, it's real. Someone is getting in here and stealing from me.
Garrett gestures at himself and winces in pain in response.
No one else can even get in here.
They could be breaking in.
Is there any sign of forced entry?
But what if...
Just stop it.
Garrett is taken aback by the abruptness of Dr. Bell's mood change. She recognizes her outburst and switches back to a calmer tone.
I'm sorry. I just mean that I thought we talked about you trying to move past this and trying a little harder to get better. This is all in your head. As for this cut...
Dr. Bell presses gently on Garrett's cut as she speaks. He winces.
You probably fell. You called for help and forgot about it. You're just stressing yourself out. Would it calm your nerves if I stayed for the night?
Yeah, I think it would.
Interior apartment living room night. Dr. Bell sits on the couch with a blanket. She wears a t-shirt and long pajama pants. She's wearing a book. She's reading a book. Garrett is filling a glass with water at the sink.
Do you need anything?
I'm all right, thank you.
Garrett takes the glass to his room. Interior apartment bedroom night. Garrett takes the medication before crawling into bed and falling asleep. Interior apartment living room day. Dr. Bell is in the kitchen making a pot of coffee. She is dressed in her typical blazer outfit. Garrett enters rubbing sleep from his eyes. His hair is messy and he is still in his pajamas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Any new marks or cuts?
Garrett looks over his body, searching for any sign of proof.
I don't think so.
So nothing happened?
I guess not.
Dr. Bell gives Garrett a look.
Right.
Okay. Now, I have to get going here, but I have something else for you.
Dr. Bell goes over to her bag. She pulls out another bottle of medication and hands it to him.
But I'm not out yet.
This is something different. It's similar to what you have, but it will also help you with the overactivity in your brain, causing you to overthink situations. One pill, once a day, only at night. You can keep taking your other medications without any problem.
Got it.
Take care of yourself, all right?
Thanks.
Dr. Bell leaves the apartment and Garrett walks towards the kitchen while examining the new medicine bottle. Dr. Bell locks the door behind her. Key in lock catches Garrett's attention and he swivels around to face the door.
She has a key.
Garrett becomes frantic. He runs to the bedroom and returns with his other bottle of medication. He thinks for a moment. He throws both bottles in the trash. Interior apartment living room later. Garrett paces by the kitchen table before turning toward the mirror to talk to himself again.
If she's the one breaking in here, I need proof.
Garrett stares at his reflection before having an idea. He runs towards the bedroom. Interior apartment bedroom later. Garrett digs around in the bedroom closet. Mixed in with Garrett's, female clothing is hanging in the closet above him. Garrett finally finds what he is looking for. It's a black camera bag with a tag labeled Molly Hart. Garrett stares at the name for a moment before he opens the bag, pulls out the camera, and puts the bag back into the closet. He fumbles with getting the camera set up and places it in the corner of the room on the dresser facing the bed. He places different items around the camera to try and disguise it. When satisfied with the camera's location, he rigs the trap to make the camera start recording when the trap goes off. This trap is a makeshift tripwire by the bedroom door that triggers the remote start. Garrett admires his work. He yawns and checks the time. It's just after 8. Garrett turns off the main light. It's completely dark. Camera perspective shows Garrett turning on a lamp in the corner of the room. He crawls into bed and falls asleep. Interior, apartment, bedroom, day. Garrett wakes up in bed and begins his mechanical daily routine. As he brushes his teeth, he notices a fresh needle mark on his arm. His eyes grow wide. He spits his toothpaste and runs to check on the camera. The trap has been set off. Interior apartment, living room, day. Garrett has the camera hooked up to his laptop at the table. The upload buffers. As he waits, Garrett glances over and notices a couple drops of blood leading to the living room closet. He investigates. While he is gone, the video uploads. On the screen, the video shows Garrett's empty bed. Garrett can be heard off screen opening the closet. On the screen, Garrett re-enters. He moves mechanically toward the dresser where the camera sits. On the screen, Garrett digs around in the bottom dresser drawer until he pulls out a needle connected to a long tube. He pulls out a DIY blood bag next and connects it to the end of the tube. Garrett stands before the open living room closet door. Inside is a small cooler. He bends down to see what is inside. On the screen, Garrett makes his way back to the bed, inserts the needle in his arm, and calmly sits as blood drips down the tube and into the bag. Garrett screams off screen. Camera slowly pans over to find Garrett curled up on the floor crying by the closet. The open cooler sitting next to him is filled with full DIY blood bags and razor boxes. Fade to black. Fade in. Interior, main apartment, day. The apartment is empty except for a few cardboard boxes. A small stack of newspapers is sitting on top of one of the boxes. The headline of the top newspaper reads, "Past trauma causes Glenville man to bring his fears to reality." Garrett's picture is paired with the article. The apartment door opens and Janelle walks in. She makes her way to the boxes and picks up the one with the newspapers on it. When she starts walking, the papers fall off. She moves to put the box down and pick them, but the door opens up first. Garrett enters. He's aged, but his appearance is much more well-kept and healthier than before. He sees the papers on the floor and picks them up. He looks at the paper headlined, "Wife of Glenville man dies tragically in alley murder." He reads it for a moment. Janelle puts down the box and moves towards Garrett. Her hand on his shoulder reveals a diamond engagement ring.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. You ready?
Garrett kisses Janelle. An alarm on Garrett's watch goes off and ruins the moment. He turns it off, pulls a small medicine case out of his pocket where he retrieves a small green pill. It is different from the ones he has heard before. He pops it into his mouth. Janelle picks up her box, and Garrett grabs the last one. He follows her to the door, but stops and puts the box down. He takes the articles and leaves them on the counter. Garrett picks up the box and turns the light off on his way out. As the door closes, the screen goes black. The end.
Okay. I just want to do a special thanks to all of my actors.
Just give it to him after.
Okay. And then I would also like to thank Carlos, because yeah, he helped me the whole way through. I physically and mentally could not have done it without him. It was a long process, but it was worth it. And I'd like to thank Mark too, because Mark kind of helped me in getting into my film path, and I would not have have gotten there if he wouldn't have said, do this, do it, do it. So, yes. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah.
When are you gonna film it?
We're talking about filming it in May, possibly. So, yeah.
It's a week from now.
Yeah.
Carlos, you're up.
Lot to do. Lot to do.
Yeah.
Luisa's done.
Mhm.
Dr. Bell has to die. It's just this is only my second time through. Sorry, Julie. You gotta die.
That's rude.
It doesn't for me. Again, it's only my second time through, but I feel at the end it's so tidy. And it's almost a pharmaceutical, well, it's things good, sponsored by. You know? But we just talked briefly afterwards. If as they're exiting in this perfect world, if the door were to close and the closet door were just to fall open because of, and we see Dr. Bell's hand come out, or see her in the corner dead or something, to me at least, and it could be very quick, but just something that goes, oh, it's not done, and Janelle's in trouble. Or maybe it's doctor who actually helps him, and we see Janelle in the closet. But to me, it's so clean at the end, and I spent all this time, it's like something's up and wrong. It's not just as easy, for me anyway, in reading, it's like there's something wrong with this Garrett. It's not just all clean, and I take my own blood and take some pills, and things are great. Maybe it was just Sean reading. I mean. There's something wrong with that guy.
So what gave you inspiration for this storyline?
So, I was working on my midterm project for screenwriting, and we had to come up with 10 logline ideas with the 7-beat structure for each of them. And while I was looking up just one word for a certain, I was looking up, what was it, like, a word to describe someone, or like, I don't know. I was trying to look over the word and I was trying to search the definition, and no matter how I worded it, every time I searched it, Cotard's delusion would pop up. And then I looked into it a little bit more and I was like, that's a really cool idea. I'm gonna write something about it. And so that ended up being one of my midterm top 10. And then we decided that I was the one that wanted to write for my thesis. So.
Just wondered, a professional question, would a psychologist ever, or a psychiatrist ever be able to distribute pills directly, or would it always go through a pharmacist? Yeah, so that to me was also, every time we saw it, it's like, something's wrong here. That would never happen. It's gonna be a piece of paper, not pills. There's something wrong with this psychiatrist.
Yeah, I'm sleeping over at his house.
It's like, oh man, there's a lot of problems here. Something going on.
One stop shop.
Another reason she needs to die.
That's right.
So how many table reads have you done?
2 now.
Okay. So I just, did you revise anything after the first table read? Do you sometimes hear something that when you wrote it, you kind of liked it, but then when you heard it, you wanted to change it?
So, in the past few weeks, we've kind of really gotten into like condensing everything and revising it. And so my final revision actually was just like a week or 2 ago, 2 weeks ago. And so then that next week we were working on getting cast. And so our first table read was at 5 o'clock.
Today.
But, yeah, so it was actually really cool because a lot of what I wrote was interpreted really well by all of my actors, and they did a phenomenal job. And so I did notice typos though that I did not notice before, and I will be revising those. So, yeah.
So what does the table read feel like for you as a writer?
Me as a writer, it's really stressful because I'm not sure if like the dialogue I wrote in my head sounds right when it's being said. And then what's also kind of cool though is sometimes I hear, like I have it written one way and I hear them say it a different way. I'm like, actually, that one. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm changing it to that because it's just a more natural flow. And then sometimes it's really cool afterwards. the cast can ask questions, and then they're like, this doesn't make sense, or this does. And so it's kind of eye-opening in seeing more people's perspective on the story. But yeah, for me, it's just really stressful. Yeah.
Is this something you would like to do in the future?
Yes, I would love to do stuff in screenwriting and film production. When I came into Waldorf, I was like, I guess I'll do communications. I didn't really know what it was, and I came on my tour for communications. And actually, Mark doesn't remember it, but he did give me my tour partway.
How can I forget that? I remember that. That was my best table read, but I'm not convinced. Maybe you're a better scriptwriter.
And then I realized, oh, I do like this stuff. And so I came in on public relations and slowly added everything. And it was through some of my classes with Mark that I was able to be like, I do kind of like this film stuff. And yeah, so now it's shifted to like my whole life goal, I guess. Yeah.
What are some filmmakers that inspire you?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know a lot of filmmakers by heart, like the names. Sometimes I watched like a lot of movies growing up because I have a big family. There's like 6 of us kids, so going out to the movies was like expensive. So and doing anything with our family was really expensive. So we'd always buy movies and then just watch movies together at home. So I've seen a lot of movies, but I didn't really know that film is something that like really hit me until more recently. So I haven't really looked into specific filmmakers like yet. I
This
guess.
felt very Hitchcockian.
Yeah.
I think you would like Hitchcock and David Fincher a lot.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Short.
Yeah.
Has the process of writing a script or filming something changed how you watch other films?
Yes. Oh, yes, it does. I can watch anything. Yeah, because like throughout screenwriting, we learned with the different kinds of like screenwriting and stuff too, and a lot about movies, and even just like learning about creating movies. Every time I see a Dutch angle, I can't even help it. I'm like, oh, a Dutch angle. And I'm like, sorry to everybody else I'm watching the movie with, because I love Dutch angles. And so Dutch angles just it kind of tilted on the screen, which adds kind of like that dissonance, which is nice. I love it. And so yeah, and learning about everything about it, I watch movies so differently. I used to like watch a movie and be like, that's so good. And now sometimes I watch a movie and I'm like, that's so good, but why'd they do that? And like plot hole and all that stuff. And sometimes like I was watching what's it called? Shake It Up, that Disney Channel show. There's just one spot where they're like going into a breakdance, and Zendaya puts down her sandwich twice. Just saying, she puts it down twice. It's the close up, and then it's the far away one. She puts it down again. So yeah, I feel like I look way more closely into the storylines of different things now, and I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's the midpoint right there.